طلع المطار ده. نعم تحرك 200 المطار. يا رب الله.
A bold decision is currently unfolding in Israel, where the government and various Jewish religious groups are pushing to restore the Third Temple in Jerusalem, one of the holiest sites for the Jewish people. This is not merely an effort to restore a historical heritage, but also a claim to ancestral rights that Jews believe were lost thousands of years ago. However, this decision is creating significant challenges for other religious faiths across the globe and is escalating tensions in the region. Today, some religious and political groups in Israel are advocating for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. This is a bold move, not only to restore the religious and cultural heritage of the Jewish people, but also to assert historical rights over this land. For many Jews, the temple is not just an architectural structure, but a symbol of divine authority, independence, and connection to God. They believe that rebuilding the temple would mark the fulfillment of biblical prophecies concerning the return of the Messiah. This bold decision by Israel to push forward with plans to rebuild the Third Temple is not merely a domestic issue, but one with far-reaching implications for the international community. Religious and political tensions are escalating, not only within the Middle East, but potentially on a global scale. This move could ignite conflicts not only between Israel and Palestine, but also between Islamic nations and global powers. While many supporters argue that restoring the temple is a way to affirm the Jewish people's historical heritage and ancestral rights, the price the world might pay could be enormous. This decision demands careful consideration, not only from a religious perspective, but also from political and diplomatic viewpoints. The peace of Jerusalem, a city sacred to 3 major religions, will depend on how the stakeholders navigate these complex and sensitive challenges. A completely unexpected and profound event has occurred within the borders of Israel, capturing the attention of not only the Jewish community, but also observers worldwide. This remarkable moment is one that has inspired hope and curiosity, an event that few anticipated but could carry significant implications for the future. What makes this event so unique and important, however, is its connection to the long-awaited rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, as prophesied in the Bible. At the heart of this event is a surprising development by a group of religious and political leaders in Israel who have made a bold move towards advancing plans for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. For the Jewish people, the restoration of the Third Temple is not merely a spiritual aspiration, but also a declaration of historical, cultural, and religious sovereignty over the land of Jerusalem, a city sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam alike. The Third Temple is believed to be the place where prophecies of redemption and the reestablishment of religious authority will be fulfilled. For centuries, following the destruction of the First and Second Temples, Jews have nurtured the hope of one day seeing the Third Temple rise again. According to Jewish tradition, the Third Temple is not just a place of worship, but a symbol of reconciliation between humanity and God. Many believe that the rebuilding of the Third Temple is a necessary precursor to the arrival of the Messiah, who will usher in an era of peace for the world. However, this endeavor is far from simple. The Third Temple is expected to be built on the Temple Mount, a site that currently houses the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, 2 of Islam's most sacred locations. This is an incredibly sensitive issue, not only for the Palestinian Muslim community, but also for the broader Muslim world. Any attempt to alter the status quo in this area carries the risk of escalating conflicts in the region and provoking strong opposition from Islamic nations worldwide. Despite these challenges, the recent unexpected event in Israel has renewed hope for those advocating the restoration of the Third Temple. In a special ceremony, a group of Jewish religious leaders performed the sacrifice of a red heifer, a rare and significant ritual that is essential in the preparation for the rebuilding of the temple. According to the Bible, the offering of a perfect red heifer is a prerequisite for the purification of the temple and the resumption of its sacred worship. This event, occurring amid heightened political and religious tensions, has been hailed by supporters of the Third Temple as a prophetic sign. They believe it marks a critical step forward, paving the way for further actions, including the physical construction of the temple itself. What makes this event so distinctive and consequential is not only the religious symbolism, but also its potential impact on global geopolitics. The rebuilding of the Third Temple, if it were to happen, would not only have profound religious significance, but could also reshape the entire political landscape of the region. It could alter the relationships between Israel and its neighboring Muslim nations, potentially leading to new conflicts or, conversely, creating opportunities for groundbreaking peace negotiations. Regardless of how this event is perceived, one thing is clear: it marks a pivotal moment in the history of Israel and the global Jewish community. It has sparked deep discussions about the future of Jerusalem and the realization of biblical prophecies concerning the rebuilding of the Third Temple. As the world watches, this moment is seen as one filled with both hope and challenges, as ancient texts and modern realities converge in a way that could shape the future in profound ways. The world is witnessing a moment of hope, as what was once written in sacred scripture begins to unfold in real time. Whether it leads to further conflict or opens the door to peace, this event signals a turning point with global implications. The long-awaited rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, prophesied in the Bible, is a profoundly symbolic event for the Jewish people and those attentive to signs of the end times. According to Jewish tradition, the Third Temple will serve as a place where humanity reconnects with God, and it will restore ancient worship rituals that have been absent since the Second Temple was destroyed in 70 AD. However, the significance of rebuilding the temple transcends Jewish religious beliefs and carries wider political and regional implications. In the Bible, particularly through prophetic books like Daniel and Ezekiel, the reconstruction of the Third Temple is seen as a key sign signaling the arrival of the last days. The temple is not merely a site for worship; it symbolizes the fulfillment of God's covenant with the people of Israel, an event with monumental meaning for those who anticipate the return of the Messiah. This is why this moment, as signals and signs surrounding the rebuilding of the temple become more apparent, is being closely watched with great anticipation, not only by the Jewish community, but also by Christian believers and others around the world. This development marks a critical milestone in the religious and political history of Israel, stirring both hope and concern among different groups. The rebuilding of the Third Temple is not just a religious statement. It is deeply connected to Jewish sovereignty and historical claims over Jerusalem, a city with immense spiritual significance to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. However, this is a highly sensitive matter because the Temple Mount, where the Third Temple is expected to be built, is currently home to two of Islam's most sacred sites, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. Given the sensitivity of the area, any move toward rebuilding the temple could potentially escalate conflict and tensions in the Middle East, where relations between Israel and surrounding Muslim nations remain fragile. Despite this, for those who await the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, this moment brings immense hope, as they believe that the rebuilding of the temple will usher in a new era in human history, an era in which the Messiah will appear and bring peace to the world. While there are significant challenges and hurdles ahead, the anticipation of the Third Temple's reconstruction continues to spread, capturing global attention. With its profound religious and political implications, this event is seen as a crucial turning point in the modern history of Israel, and it holds the potential to shape the future not just of the region, but of the entire world. The rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem is not only a religious event, but also a deeply controversial issue within the Jewish community and among international observers. For some Jews, the reconstruction of the temple is seen as the fulfillment of God's promise to the nation of Israel as foretold in the Bible, symbolizing a revival of faith and the restoration of ancient religious practices. In their view, the Third Temple would mark the renewal of a close relationship between God and humanity, where sacrificial rituals and worship would resume as they did during the periods of the First and Second Temples. However, not all Jews share this perspective. A portion of the Jewish community fears that initiating the process of rebuilding the Third Temple could lead to unpredictable consequences, both politically and religiously. The temple would be constructed on the Temple Mount, a site that is currently home to two of Islam's most significant landmarks, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. This makes the restoration of the temple an extremely sensitive geopolitical issue that could trigger conflicts and instability in the region. The division within the Jewish community highlights a complex reality. Rebuilding the temple is not merely a matter of religious conviction, but a political decision with the potential to impact the entire Middle East. Some argue that reconstructing the temple could spark a political storm, heightening tensions between Jews and the Muslim world, particularly Palestinians, where disputes over land rights and religious claims have persisted for centuries. Additionally, the controversy surrounding the Third Temple has ignited intense dialogues and debates internationally, especially among those concerned with the prophetic implications regarding the end times as described in the Bible. The Bible predicts many significant events related to Israel that are expected to occur in the last days. For many, that the rebuilding of the Third Temple is a clear sign that we are approaching this period. According to some prophecies, the Third Temple will be the site of crucial events that lead to the return of the Messiah, and some even believe it to be a harbinger of the impending apocalypse. However, not everyone believes that this truly marks the beginning of the end times, as warned by the Bible. Regardless, the rebuilding of the Third Temple remains an issue that the world must closely monitor. It reflects not only the rebirth of an ancient faith, but also serves as a sign of the complexity of modern religious and political landscapes. Whether we are standing at the threshold of a new era in human history is a question many are still trying to answer. But it is clear that any moves regarding the Third Temple will have profound implications, not only for Israel, but for the entire Middle East and the world at large. The Bible, particularly in 2 Thessalonians 2:4, describes the rise of the Antichrist, who will claim to be God and sit in the temple of God. This suggests that before certain end-time events unfold, a temple must be built in Jerusalem. This is often referred to as the Third Temple, as two temples have already existed in history. The first temple was built by King Solomon, the son of King David. It was the central place of worship for the people of Israel and symbolized the presence of God among his people. However, this temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BC when the Israelites were taken into exile. After their return from Babylonian exile, under the leadership of figures like Ezra and Nehemiah, the Second Temple was constructed. This temple remained the religious center until it was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. When speaking about the Third Temple, many believe that its reconstruction will be a significant precursor to the fulfillment of end-time prophecies. According to 2 Thessalonians 2:4, the Antichrist will emerge, opposing everything that is called God or is worshipped. He will exalt himself above all and sit in the temple, proclaiming himself to be God. This is part of the deception the Antichrist will use to mislead humanity during the last days. For many believers, especially those who study biblical prophecy, the rebuilding of the Third Temple is seen as a critical sign. They believe that once this temple is erected, it will signal the beginning of a series of events tied to the end times, including the appearance of the Antichrist, the Great Tribulation, and the second coming of Jesus Christ. However, the construction of the Third Temple in Jerusalem is not merely a religious issue, but also a significant political challenge. The site where the previous two temples once stood is now one of the most sacred places for both Judaism and Islam. Building a third temple would require massive geopolitical changes and could spark severe conflict between different religious groups and nations. Some biblical scholars argue that the Third Temple does not necessarily have to be a physical structure. They suggest that the temple of God could symbolize the community of believers, the body of Christ. In this view, the Antichrist's rise may not occur in a physical temple, but rather within the hearts of people, where he declares himself as God by leading them into apostasy and rejecting the true faith. Regardless of which interpretation one accepts, it is clear that the events involving the temple in Jerusalem play a central role in the end-time scenarios described in the Bible. The presence of a third temple is a condition for the fulfillment of prophecies concerning the Antichrist and subsequent events. For many believers, This heightens their anticipation of the return of Jesus Christ. But it also serves as a sobering reminder of the challenging times the world will face before ultimate redemption comes. The focus on Jerusalem and the Third Temple reflects the deep connection between religion, history, and prophecy. Jerusalem, as the spiritual center of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, has always been a hotspot for religious and political tensions. The construction of the Third Temple, according to many, would not just be the restoration of a religious symbol, but could also trigger the end-time events foretold in the Bible. In any case, the Third Temple remains a controversial yet significant topic in the study of biblical prophecy. The belief in the coming of the Messiah is not only a religious concept, but also a powerful symbol of hope and unity for the Jewish people. Throughout their long and often tumultuous history, the Jews have faced numerous challenges, from exile and oppression to geographic and political separation. Yet, despite these trials, the faith in a brighter future led by the Messiah has helped them remain steadfast in their identity and beliefs. According to Jewish tradition, the Messiah's arrival will not only be a religious event, but also a moment of complete restoration for the Jewish nation. The Messiah is expected to bring peace, justice, and liberation to the Jewish people, delivering them from persecution, injustice, and dispersion that have marked their history for millennia. This restoration is seen not only in the reestablishment of an independent nation in the land of Israel, but also in the spiritual and moral revival of the entire Jewish people. The land of Israel, or Eretz Yisrael, holds a central place in the prophecy surrounding the coming of the Messiah. For Jew, returning to this land is not merely a physical homecoming, but one with deep spiritual significance. This land is where God promised Abraham and his descendants a homeland, and it is where the Messiah is expected to appear and establish God's kingdom on earth. Thus, the return to the Holy Land symbolizes the fulfillment of sacred promises and a hopeful future of peace for all of humanity. The liberation promised by the Messiah goes beyond political freedom or escape from external oppression. It also entails spiritual redemption. The belief in the Messiah has been a source of hope, helping Jews to endure suffering and maintain faith in a better future. This belief has been particularly important during times of exile and persecution. Generations of Jews have persistently prayed and waited for the day when the Messiah will come, a day when all suffering will cease and justice will prevail. Belief in the Messiah's arrival and the return to the Holy Land has also been a unifying force for Jews around the world. Despite being scattered across different regions and cultures, Jewish communities have maintained spiritual connections with one another through religious rituals and cultural traditions. Prayers for Jerusalem and the hope for one day returning to the Holy Land are ever present in Jewish religious life. This shared belief has strengthened the bond between Jews and reinforced their faith in a better future under the Messiah's guidance. Throughout history, the Jewish people have faced many hardships and trials, from the Babylonian exile and foreign domination to the horrors of the Holocaust in the 20th century. Yet, despite all this pain and loss, they have held fast to the belief that one day the Messiah will come to bring deliverance. This belief has become an integral part of Jewish identity, enabling them to survive even the darkest periods of their history. The return to the Holy Land is not just a historical or political event, but an expression of the sacred values that the Jewish people have preserved over generations. For them, the land represents the revival of a nation that has endured tremendous suffering and hardship. This land is not only a physical space, but a symbol of hope, faith, and the fulfillment of promises for a future of peace under God's reign. Belief in the coming of the Messiah and the return to the Holy Land is a source of hope that transcends all difficulties, enabling the Jewish people to remain loyal to their faith and traditions. For generations, they have guarded and passed down this belief, not just as a means of survival, but as a way to look forward to a promising future of peace and harmony under the Messiah's leadership. Jerusalem is a city with a long and tumultuous history, serving as a center for various cultures and religions throughout the ages. In 1020 BC, under the threat of foreign powers, the scattered tribes of Israel decided to unite, forming the unified kingdom of Israel under the rule of King Saul. Following Saul's reign, King David, and particularly King Solomon, brought Israel to its peak of prosperity. The reign of King Solomon, around the 10th century BC, marked the golden age of the Kingdom of Israel. Under Solomon's leadership, Israel not only expanded its territory, but also became a major cultural, commercial, and religious center in the region. One of Solomon's greatest achievements was the construction of the Temple in Jerusalem, which became the heart of Jewish worship. This temple, known as the Temple of Peace, or First Temple, symbolized peace and prosperity and was the central place of worship for the Jewish people. The Temple of Jerusalem was not just a massive architectural achievement, it was also a symbol of the special relationship between the Jewish people and God. It was built on a site where Jews believed God's presence once dwelt, and it housed the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred symbol of the covenant between God and the people of Israel. The construction of this temple attracted many pilgrims, and Jerusalem became the religious center of the entire nation. However, as the saying goes, nations rise and fall, and the Kingdom of Israel was no exception to the cycle of decline. After Solomon's death, the kingdom split into two separate entities, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. This division weakened the nation, and over the centuries that followed, both kingdoms faced invasions from powerful neighboring empires like Assyria and Babylon. In 586 BC, the kingdom's decline reached its peak when the kingdom of Judah was invaded by the Babylonian Empire under the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar II. This invasion resulted in the destruction of the First Temple in Jerusalem. This event marked the beginning of a long period of exile for the Jewish people, who were taken as captives to Babylon. Though they were eventually allowed to return and rebuild the temple, known as the Second Temple, the nation never regained the same level of prosperity as it had during Solomon's reign. The Second Temple, although rebuilt, could not escape the storms of history. By the 1st century AD, the Jewish people were living under the rule of the Roman Empire, a powerful regime that dominated the Mediterranean world. Tensions between the Jewish people and the Roman authorities escalated, ultimately culminating in a full-scale revolt in AD 66. This war was a bloody and catastrophic conflict that lasted until AD 70, when the Roman army, led by General Titus, besieged and captured Jerusalem. The war ended with the complete defeat of the Jewish people. Roman forces entered Jerusalem and destroyed the city, including the Second Temple, the most sacred place for the Jewish people. The destruction of the temple was an immensely traumatic event and marked the end of Jewish independence. The temple, once the religious and cultural center of Jewish life, was reduced to ruins. This event not only crushed the revolt, but also led to a large-scale exodus of Jewish people from their homeland. Many were forced to leave their ancestral lands, becoming exiles scattered across the world. This diaspora, coupled with the loss of the temple, left deep scars in the Jewish consciousness for millennia. However, even in exile, the hope of one day returning to Jerusalem and rebuilding the temple remained alive in Jewish belief. Jerusalem, over the centuries, has come to symbolize resilience, faith, and hope for the Jewish people. Despite the many upheavals it has endured, from the prosperity of Solomon's reign to the fall under Roman domination, Jerusalem has always held a special place in the hearts of the Jewish people and humanity at large. According to the belief of some Christians, the crucifixion of Jesus on the cross is a significant event not only in the history of Christianity, but also in the history of the Jewish people. Christians believe that Jesus was the Messiah prophesied in the scriptures, and when he came to earth to preach the good news, many Jews at that time did not accept him. Instead of embracing Jesus' message, they agreed with his arrest and condemned him to death by crucifixion. In Christianity, this event is regarded as one of the great mistakes made by the Jewish people of that era. Some Christians also believe that because of the rejection and killing of the Messiah, the Jewish people faced severe consequences. The destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD by the Romans and the subsequent exile of the Jewish people for thousands of years are seen by some Christian believers as a form of divine punishment. They believe that this loss is closely connected to the Jewish nation's refusal to recognize Jesus as the Messiah, leading to the collapse of the Jewish state in their prolonged exile. In the book of Leviticus 26:32-33, God declares, "I will make the land desolate. The land will enjoy its Sabbaths while it lies desolate without you." This prophecy was a warning to the people of Israel, indicating the consequences they would face if they failed to obey God's commandments and uphold the covenant. Should they stray from their faith and not live according to God's will, they would be exiled from the promised land, and the land they once cultivated would become desolate, uninhabited by any people for an extended period. Following the invasions of major empires like Assyria and Babylon, the Israelites were forced into exile, losing their homeland. This period of exile seemed to fulfill the prophecy in Leviticus, as the land of Israel became barren and neglected. According to God's words, the land would rest during the time it lay desolate, recovering from the long years of human occupation and cultivation. Throughout history, after the Jewish people were exiled, various nations and empires came to rule over the land of Israel. However, none of these nations or empires managed to establish a stable, long-lasting civilization in the region. The Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, Islamic caliphates, and finally the Ottoman Empire all controlled the land at different points, but no lasting or prosperous nation was founded there. The land of Israel, particularly after the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, became dry and uncultivated, with much of the area becoming barren. Jerusalem itself was often in a state of ruin and decline. This aligns with the biblical prophecy that the land of Israel would become desolate in the absence of its people. The land rested during the centuries when the Jewish people were absent, and foreign powers were unable to establish a thriving nation there. It wasn't until the Jewish people began to return to the land in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, culminating in the establishment of the modern state of Israel in 1948, that the land began to flourish once again. After centuries of neglect, Israel has grown into a prosperous nation, with its once barren land now fertile and productive. Many see this return of the Jewish people and the revival of the land of Israel as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, affirming that the covenant between God and the people of Israel endures, and the promised land will never be forgotten forever. Despite the fact that the Jewish people have returned and revived a barren land after thousands of years, they remain faithful to the covenant of Sinai that they made with God. This covenant established the special relationship between Israel and the Lord, affirming that Yahweh is the one true God of Israel, and Israel is his chosen people. This relationship holds not only religious significance, but also demonstrates the sacred and unique role of the Jewish nation in God's divine plan. One of the most visible symbols of modern Israel is its blue and white flag. The choice of blue is not arbitrary. It is rooted in divine instructions from the Bible. In the book of Numbers 15:38-39, God commands the Israelites to attach a blue cord to the tassels of their garments as a reminder to keep his commandments and live a life of holiness. The color blue here symbolizes holiness and the heavens, serving as a visual reminder to the Jewish people of their unique relationship with God. Furthermore, the color blue appears multiple times in descriptions of the temple and Jewish worship practices. The Ark of the Covenant, the holiest object in the tabernacle, which contained the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments, was covered by a blue cloth. This again emphasizes the association of this color with God's presence in the heavenly realm. The blue on Israel's flag today carries profound meaning, reminding the nation of the covenant they made with God long ago, and serving as a symbol of hope, holiness, and faithfulness to the Lord. Blue is not just a symbol of holiness, but also a sign of heaven, representing all things noble and divine. It evokes thoughts of a world where Yahweh is at the center, the source of all goodness and salvation. The presence of blue on sacred objects, from the Ark of the Covenant to the fringes of garments, underscores the idea that every action and thought of humankind must be directed toward God, leading them to heaven, their ultimate home. Today, the revival of the nation of Israel and its blue flag stand as a testament to the steadfast faith of the Jewish people in God's promises. Despite enduring countless trials, exiles, and dispersions across the world, they have held on to the hope of returning to their promised land. The blue flag serves as a daily reminder that Israel is not just a nation like any other, but a people chosen by God, entrusted with a sacred and unique mission in his plan of redemption. Another unique feature of the Israeli flag is the six-pointed star, commonly known as the Star of David. This star has become a significant symbol for the Jewish people and carries deep spiritual meanings. The Jewish tradition regards the Star of David as the Star of Redemption. It is often described as two interlocking triangles, representing key aspects of creation, revelation, and redemption. One set of points symbolizes these spiritual principles, while the other set represents humanity, the world, and God. The first triangle's points reflect the journey of faith. Creation, which refers to the origin of the universe and life brought forth by God. Revelation, which is God's disclosure to humanity through the scriptures and prophets. And redemption, which signifies how humans can return to God through faith, repentance, and adherence to his laws. The second triangle's points, humanity, the world, and God, signify the interconnected relationship between human beings, the created world, and the divine. The combination of the prayer shawl and the Star of David on the Israeli flag symbolizes God's divine protection over the Jewish people, his chosen nation. The prayer shawl, talit, with its blue tassels, was commanded by God to remind the Israelites of his commandments. When these elements appear together on the flag, they proclaim that God is always present, shielding and guiding the people of Israel through all their trials and challenges. The temple, in relation to God, is a sacred place where humanity can meet and worship him in his majestic presence. From the time God instructed Moses to build the tabernacle in the wilderness, the temple has served as a symbol of the relationship between God and the people of Israel. The temple is not just an architectural structure, but also the dwelling place of God, the site where sacrifices are made and where the people seek his guidance. The first temple, built by King Solomon, was a magnificent masterpiece, symbolizing God's glory and the devotion of the Jewish people. However, when it was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BC, it became a symbol of loss and desolation, while also serving as a reminder of the need to restore the relationship with God. The Jews built the second temple upon their return from Babylonian exile. Though it lacked the grandeur of Solomon's temple, the second temple remained the center of worship and the site of important religious rituals. But in 70 AD, this temple was also destroyed by the Roman Empire. The destruction of the second temple marked a significant turning point in Jewish history and opened up a long period of trials and dispersion. For the Jewish people, the construction of the third temple holds immense significance, as it represents not just the restoration of a religious structure, but also the re-establishment of the special relationship between Israel and God. According to Jewish tradition, the third temple would be the place where God would once again dwell and receive offerings, much like in the times of the first and second temples. The presence of the third temple would signify the return of God's glory to Israel, bringing peace, prosperity, and the fulfillment of God's redemptive plan for his people. Moreover, the building of the third temple is closely tied to biblical prophecies about the Messianic era. Many Jews believe that the construction of the third temple will be a sign of the coming of the Messiah, who will bring salvation and establish God's kingdom on earth. For them, the third temple represents not only a place of worship and sacrifice, but also the fulfillment of divine promises from God. The third temple, in Jewish belief, is a symbol of the fulfillment of the divine promises that God made to the people of Israel. For the Jewish people, the temple is not merely a physical structure, but the dwelling place of God among his chosen people, a sacred symbol of the special relationship between Israel and the Creator. Through the rebuilding of the third temple, Jews believe that God's presence will return to Israel, restoring the deep connection between God and his people and fulfilling the prophecies found in the scriptures. The anticipation of the third temple is closely tied to the divine promises that God gave to the Jewish people from ancient times. From the moment God made a covenant with Abraham, he promised that his descendants would inherit a land as their possession and that he would be their God. This covenant was further solidified through Moses and the people of Israel at Mount Sinai, where God gave them the law and established them as his chosen people. According to the Bible, the temple was the place where God promised to dwell among his people, and its existence was synonymous with the presence of God's glory on earth. The rebuilding of the third temple is not just a physical restoration, but also carries deep symbolic meaning. For the Jewish people, it represents the restoration of the relationship between God and Israel. After centuries of living in exile and being scattered across the world, rebuilding the third temple would demonstrate that God has not forgotten his people and remains faithful to his promises. The third temple will serve as the place where God and the people of Israel can reestablish their sacred bond, with Israel once again becoming God's chosen nation and God dwelling among them. Furthermore, the construction of the third temple is closely tied to the hope of future redemption. According to various biblical prophecies, particularly in the books of Ezekiel and Daniel, the third temple will be a central feature of the Messianic era, a time when the Messiah will come to establish God's kingdom on earth. Jews believe that when the third temple is built, it will be a sign that the Messianic age is near, a time when all the suffering, injustice, and trials they have endured will finally come to an end, ushering in a new era of peace and prosperity. When the third temple is built and the Lord returns, all of God's promises will be fulfilled. This prospect serves as a beacon of hope for many believers who hold that despite the countless difficulties and conflicts faced in the present, a divine plan is unfolding. This plan aims not only to address the issues of humanity, but also to lead to the ultimate redemption that everyone awaits. The return of the temple carries significant religious meaning and symbolizes restoration and reconstruction. The third temple will be a place where people can gather to worship, pray, and commemorate God's promises. It will stand as a testament to the perseverance of faith, a sanctuary where all who believe in the Lord can find comfort and encouragement in their daily lives. In today's modern world, where political and religious conflicts abound, the hope for the construction of the third temple becomes more crucial than ever. It represents the re-establishment of the covenant between God and the people of Israel, serving as a sign that current turmoil will not last indefinitely. Instead, a new era of peace and justice will emerge, where individuals can live in love and empathy. Moreover, the fulfillment of these promises transcends mere religious significance. It has the potential to reshape the relationships between nations and different cultures. When the third temple is built, it will serve as a center of peace and understanding, a place where people from various religions and cultures can come together to seek comfort and encouragement from one another. It will symbolize unity and harmony among nations, reflecting the noble values that God desires for humanity. Many believers contend that current events are part of a larger plan that God has long set in motion. Present crises may signal that the world is preparing for the return of the Lord. With each passing day, those who believe in redemption feel increasingly encouraged and strengthened in their faith, trusting that the Lord's return will bring light to the world. In this atmosphere of anticipation, the hope for the third temple serves as a reminder that, despite present challenges, a brighter future is within reach. It reinforces the belief that the trials faced today are temporary and that divine intervention will ultimately restore peace and justice. The establishment of the third temple is not merely a religious aspiration, it is a vision of hope that resonates deeply within the hearts of believers around the globe. The third temple represents the promise of renewal and restoration, both for Israel and the world at large. It is a symbol of faith that endures through adversity, inspiring believers to remain steadfast in their commitment to God. As they look forward to the day when the temple will rise once more, they are filled with a sense of purpose and anticipation, believing that this event will usher in a new era of hope and healing for all humanity. The vision of the third temple and the return of the Lord embodies the ultimate fulfillment of God's promises. It inspires countless individuals to hold on to their faith and continue striving for a future marked by love, peace, and unity. The third temple is not just a building, it is a testament to the resilience of faith and a reminder that hope can shine even in the darkest of times. Let us remain vigilant and prayerful as we await the realization of this momentous event, confident that it will herald a new beginning for all. For centuries, even as they lived in exile, Jews have longed for the day when they would return to their homeland of Israel and rebuild their temple. Each year, during prayers on holidays such as Passover and Yom Kippur, they recite the phrase, Lashana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. This is not only a prayer for returning to the land, but also a plea for the restoration of the temple, the heart of their faith and the key to their relationship with God. The Jewish people have always longed for the moment the third temple is built, believing that it will be the time when God will once again come down and dwell among his chosen people. For them, the rebuilding of the temple is not just a physical restoration, it symbolizes the reestablishment of the sacred relationship between God and Israel, a bond that has been promised since ancient times. When the third temple is completed, the Jewish people believe it will be the greatest moment of joy in their spiritual lives as they will witness the fulfillment of prophecies regarding God's presence and the coming of the Messiah. This hope has nourished the souls of the Jewish people through centuries of exile and suffering. They have always held on to the belief that one day God will return to be among his people, bringing them joy, comfort, and eternal protection. That moment, when the third temple is built and God returns, is seen not only as the redemption of the nation of Israel, but also as the culmination of all their prayers and desires throughout the ages. For the Jewish people, this event signifies the peak of joy and peace in their lives. A moment when all the pain, division, and loss endured over centuries will be healed. The anticipation of this time brings them together in faith and strengthens their commitment to their heritage, as they await the day when they can once again experience the fullness of God's presence in their midst. In the book of Revelation, a vivid vision unfolds concerning the events leading to the return of Christ. Central to this vision is Jerusalem, which is portrayed as the stage for numerous battles and destruction in the final days. This city, deeply significant in biblical prophecy, is destined to face turmoil and conflict as the culmination of human history draws near. The prophecies in Revelation suggest that Jerusalem will endure a period of intense suffering, marked by upheaval and strife as forces of evil clash with the divine. Yet amid this chaos, there is a promise of renewal and restoration. The text speaks of a new Jerusalem, a glorious and eternal city that will emerge from the ashes of the old. This new Jerusalem represents not only a physical place, but also a spiritual reality where God's presence will dwell among his people. In this new Jerusalem, the pain and suffering that have characterized human existence will be no more. The scriptures promise that there will be no more death, mourning, crying, or pain, for the old order of things will have passed away. This vision provides hope and comfort to believers, assuring them that God will ultimately triumph over evil and establish a new era of peace and righteousness. The imagery of the New Jerusalem serves as a reminder of God's faithfulness to his promises and his desire to restore creation to its intended glory. As believers look forward to this promised city, they find encouragement in the hope that their struggles will lead to an eternal existence free from suffering, where they can dwell in the presence of God forever. This profound hope drives the faithful to persevere, even amidst trials, as they anticipate the glorious fulfillment of God's ultimate plan for humanity. The belief in the return of Jesus Christ serves as a foundational pillar, providing inspiration, hope, and purpose to millions of believers around the world, especially among the Jewish community. Whether understood literally or figuratively, the promise of Jesus' return offers a vision of a world transformed by love, justice. Their belief in redemption and the coming of the Messiah resonates with the hope embodied in Jesus' second coming. This connection not only reinforces their faith, but also links them to a rich cultural and religious heritage. It creates a bridge between the past and the future, intertwining the promises found in the scriptures with their longing for a renewed world. As believers continue to live out their faith, they carry with them the hope that the return of Jesus will be a monumental event, not just for individuals, but for all humanity. They dream of a world where peace reigns, where individuals can coexist in mutual respect and love, and where the transformative power of God can touch every heart. This belief, therefore, is not merely a religious tenet, but a driving factor that influences their actions and attitudes in everyday life. The anticipation of Jesus' return provides them with the strength to face challenges and hardships, knowing that one day all will be restored in the light of love and justice. Thus, the belief in the second coming is not only a source of hope, but also a promise of a glorious future that they continuously strive towards. The Jewish people are reminded of the enduring power of the teachings of Jesus and the ultimate fulfillment of God's redemptive plan. These teachings are not merely moral principles, but a profound source of inspiration that helps them face life's trials and tribulations. Through his sermons and actions, Jesus conveyed messages of love, forgiveness, and justice, values that have long been cherished by the Jewish faith and woven into their daily lives. Jesus taught that love for one's neighbor is of the utmost importance, encouraging believers to live with compassion and empathy. Practicing this love is not just about adhering to teachings, but also about expressing their faith and connection with God. They believe that by living according to his teachings, they are preparing themselves to welcome the kingdom of God, a promised realm filled with peace and joy. For centuries, the Jewish people have faced immense hardships and suffering, from exile to persecution. These experiences have heightened their sense of the need for a better future, one where they can live in peace and prosperity. The hope for redemption not only helps them maintain their faith in God, but also motivates them to act. They believe that every good deed, every act of kindness, contributes to building a better world, one where the values Jesus imparted are fully realized. The Holy Land of Jerusalem is not merely a geographical location. It stands as a powerful symbol of profound historical significance and spiritual meaning. This is the site where many monumental historical events have unfolded, where wars have been fought, peace agreements forged, and significant encounters between diverse civilizations have taken place. Jerusalem is not only the homeland of the Jewish people, but also a sacred site for other religions, including Christianity and Islam. These lands have become the stage for humanity's greatest dramas, interweaving the past, present, and future in a manner that few other places in the world can achieve. Preparation for God's kingdom goes beyond mere anticipation. It involves a committed effort to live by the principles Jesus established. The Jewish people understand that their lives should reflect these values, allowing them to become beacons of light to others. This means practicing charity, justice, and respect for all people, regardless of their background or beliefs. The Jewish community reminds each other that they are not alone in this journey. They are part of a larger collective, bound by shared values and a common belief in redemption. The fellowship and support of others within the community strengthen their faith and help them overcome challenges. They participate in religious and social activities together, praying, sharing, and encouraging one another in their faith. The anticipation of God's kingdom also allows the Jewish people to view life's difficulties through a more positive lens. They understand that every trial can become an opportunity for growth and spiritual development. Every hardship they encounter is not merely a burden, but a valuable lesson in patience, resilience, and love. While they live in hope of a brighter future, the Jewish people look to God's promises with trust and determination. They believe that God will ultimately fulfill his plan of redemption, bringing peace and happiness to all who believe in him. This belief instills a deep inner strength, driving them to live their lives with joy, gratitude, and anticipation for what lies ahead. Hope for a better future is the driving force that motivates the Jewish people to continue living by the teachings of Jesus, preparing for the coming of God's kingdom. With hearts full of hope and faith, they believe that day is not far off and that the redemption they have long awaited will come, ushering in a new era of light and peace. However, this land is not just a repository of historical values. It evokes profound questions about the timing and manner in which the remaining prophecies concerning Israel and the Third Temple will come to fruition. Many are left wondering whether we are closer to witnessing the fulfillment of these prophecies than we have ever imagined. This anticipation is not solely confined to the hopes of the Jewish people. It captivates the hearts of countless believers worldwide who hold that these events will shape the spiritual and political destiny of the globe. Numerous scholars and followers assert that the current events unfolding around the world are part of a grander plan established by God long ago. Political conflicts, religious wars, and humanitarian crises can be seen as signs indicating that the world is preparing for the return of Christ and the construction of the Third Temple. Yet the exact timing and nature of these occurrences remain a significant mystery, prompting deep reflection and contemplation among many. As we examine the current developments, it becomes evident that these questions are not confined to one religion, but possess global political implications. The stability and peace of the Jerusalem region affect not only its inhabitants, but also influence global security and harmony. Should the prophecies regarding the Third Temple be fulfilled, it could lead to a profound transformation in how nations interact with one another, establishing a new foundation for peace and justice based on mutual understanding and respect, paving the way for cooperation among different countries and cultures. In this moment, many people live with the hope that these momentous events will soon come to pass. They believe that, despite the historical ups and downs, ultimately all things will culminate in the grand completion of God's redemptive plan. This hope extends beyond the Jewish people, resonating with all who believe in a brighter future where love and peace reign supreme over the world. The Holy Land continues to be a stage for untold stories where history and future intersect. The revival of Israel and the prophecies regarding the Third Temple serve as indicators that, regardless of the challenges faced, the hope for a better future endures within the hearts of all people. We must come together to await and pray for this monumental event, which will not only reshape the history of a nation, but also that of all humanity. The return of the Third Temple will not simply mark a religious milestone, it will signify a crucial step forward in promoting peace and understanding among peoples. It will stand as a testament to humanity's perseverance and faith in a better future where all can coexist harmoniously and empathetically. With each passing moment, our beliefs and hopes will continue to grow, encouraging us to look forward to a future where the Third Temple is built and the prophecies fulfilled. This event will not only leave an indelible mark on Jewish history, but will also open the doors to a new era of peace, love, and restoration for all of humanity. The Holy Land remains a focal point of human aspiration and spiritual fulfillment. The intertwining narratives of Jerusalem and the anticipated rebuilding of the Third Temple illuminate a path toward global redemption. It is through this lens of hope and faith that we can envision a world transformed by divine love and unity, reinforcing our commitment to peace and understanding in an increasingly complex world. Let us remain vigilant and prayerful as we await the day when these prophecies are realized, ushering in a new dawn for all humankind.